Hello, welcome, Francis here. Thank you for coming back to my channel. If this is your first time here, I bid thee welcome. There is a subscribe button below if you would like to help support this channel by subscribing, and also a bell to be notified as to when I upload more content. I'm coming to you from Ghana country. As such, I acknowledge the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains as being the traditional custodians of this land. So we have a new moon coming up this week on Thursday, the 6th of June. It will be at 10:07 p.m. That's Australian Central Standard Time. It'll be in Gemini, and it'll be 16 degrees, 17 minutes. So if you have your natal chart or your birth chart handy, you might like to see if you have any planets or points around this degree, and also have a look at what house Gemini is in, because this will provide some information as to where in your life these Gemini energies will be commencing their new circle. If you've been working with the lunar energies for a while, especially on a more deeper level, then of course new moon, when the sun and the moon are together, the darkest part of the sky, this is where you plant those new seeds, anything that you want to bring into your life. And it's worthwhile to consider what house, as I said, Gemini actually is in, as well as some of the elements that the sign is actually about. So by that, I mean Gemini is a social sign. It loves to chat, connect with people. So if you are considering expanding your networks, maybe you need a new friendship network, even looking at your usage of social media, those platforms, maybe this is where you should be planting those seeds of manifestation. Also, Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Mercury is a planet that governs our minds, our mental abilities, as well as our thoughts. So these are also things to sort of take into consideration. But before I go any further, I want to mention that we have a stellium, what's known as a stellium, which is a total of more than 3 planets, I think. And we actually have 5 planets that will be in Gemini, all of which will be enhancing these Gemini energies. So the big one, or most important one, is Jupiter. It moved into Gemini, I think, on the 25th of May. It had been in Taurus. Taurus is a very fixed earth sign. It's now moved into Gemini. It will be at 2 degrees 42 minutes at the timing of this new moon. And Gemini, of course, expands everything, it lightens everything, and it will be staying in Gemini for the next 12 months. So one of the astrologers that I follow, that I sort of gather the information to do these reports, which will be listed below, is Pam Gregory Astrologer. And she suggests thinking back as to what happened in your life 12 years ago. So that was 2012. And if you have your natal or birth chart, this could also remind you. And this is important too, because you may actually see an echo of that same thing reoccurring, repeating itself, often more positively. And added to this, Jupiter, when Jupiter entered Gemini, it is now trining, it's at 120 degrees. Pluto's in retrograde, it's in Aquarius. So this is another positive aspect, almost like giving us a vision for more sort of humanitarian attributes, a more humanitarian future, which I will speak a little bit more in a moment. I just want to mention some of the other planets we have in Gemini. As I said, we have the planetary ruler, which is Mercury. Mercury is at 6 degrees 29 minutes. So it's also trining Pluto. And in doing so, it's helping us to think more expansively, reminding us to consider the power of our words, revealing the truth. So when I say truth, I'm talking about universal truth, what the ancient Egyptians referred to as Ma'at, not our own individual truth, universal truth, divine truth, which could actually be quite surprising. So it's revealing the truth that's often been buried amongst all the chatter, all the superficial layerings. We also have Venus at 16 degrees 28 minutes, making it conjunct with the sun and the moon. So this is indicating that whatever new seed that we could be planting or will be planting actually has the energetics of love. Again, universal, unconditional love, as opposed to sort of more low-level sexual love, as we seem to, or emotive love that we seem to focus on in our day-to-day lives. Looking at Gemini itself, it's mutable air, which means it's very adaptable, it changes, it sort of takes, it's connected with communication and information, it sort of takes snippets of this and that, nothing too deep, but just enough to possibly see things from a different perspective. But in doing so, it can appear very scattered because it's not around, sort of darting, it's not around too long to sort of have any deep roots forming. Molly McCord points out that this Gemini moon is indicating beginnings around communication, personal expression, being more intentional and thoughtful in your words. Already there's a huge emphasis on communication. And because this new moon is occurring just after the halfway point in the sign, instead it's around 16 degrees. So it's about the halfway point in this actual sign of Gemini. This could actually indicate learning how to speak up, how to share your thoughts in a new way, understanding the power of words, even becoming more aware of the words that you are using. Are you speaking for the sake of filling a void, making noise? Or are you speaking because there is a message that needs to be put out there? So again, take a little bit of thought and be a little more intentional about the choice of your words. Added to this is the fact that while Gemini is connected with communication, it's also connected with the mind. So it's also connected with the thoughts. What thoughts are we thinking? This is the Mercury aspect to it. What conversations, internal conversations, are you actually having? And in fact, there seems to be an emphasis on our thinking patterns, on how we are communicating, on what we are communicating, on what is the value of the words that we are communicating. And remember, communication is a two-way street. It involves both speaking and receiving, hearing and listening, reading, absorbing. What is the truth of our sources? Especially in this very divided world that we live in. What truth are we allowing into us? Or is our communication that we're allowing to come into us based on truth? And it's getting harder and harder with all fake news and AI, etc. around. So what this new moon is doing, it's sort of making us more aware, asking us to sort of take ownership of sovereignty, so stepping up and be more responsible. And with all this sort of concentration of this Gemini energy, especially during this new moon, it could also indicate a concentration of thoughts in your mind that actually need to be downloaded, that need to be processed, expressed in one way or another. So maybe journaling, speaking to somebody, sort of getting these thoughts out of your head, going for a walk, speaking them out loud, processing them in whatever way that's appropriate for you. And this aspect is heightened with Jupiter at 2 degrees 42 minutes. As I did mention earlier, being trined with Pluto, and Pluto is retrograde in Aquarius. So this sort of is elevating the communication habits, encouraging us to step up, to fully embrace the power of communication by, I guess, being more intentional, making sure that the message is clear, especially the message that we want to get out. Pluto is about mental networks, and Aquarius, the sign that it's in, is actually ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is connected with the higher mind. Mercury, as I mentioned earlier, which is also in this trine with Pluto, is connected with the lower mind. So again, this sort of indicates a connection, probably more along the lines of understanding the power of our thoughts, the words that we use. Again, how we're getting that message out there. What is the message that we are trying to get out there? And what's interesting is that the last time we had Jupiter-Pluto trine was back in 1977. And for those of us are old enough, we may recall that back then Steve Jobs launched the first Apple II computer. That completely changed the whole home computer market. In other words, changing how we communicated, how communication was relayed from that point onwards. Of course, the flip side to all of this is, as I said, Gemini is mutable air, it fractures. And Pam Gregory uses an analogy which I thought was really fantastic. She talks about shining a light into a prism. And as you do that, the light splinters off in so many directions. It gets distracted. And this is what this intense Gemini energy could be doing as well. There are ways of counteracting that. And most importantly, probably the most easiest way is to come back to your body. Do that through exercise, going for a walk. You have to go to the gym, just coming back, becoming more aware of your body. Also engaging in practice such as meditation, breath control, mindfulness. Ways that can actually still the mind and help sort of gather together all these scattered thoughts. As I mentioned earlier, this new moon is also conjunct Venus. So this tends to indicate a place of self-awareness, of self-love, where we are learning to express this through. This is because Venus relates to our capacity to relate and receive. Pam also reminds us that it's important to keep in mind that one aspect of Gemini is choice. So when we add Venus to the mix, there is a choice to look at or look for the positive and to remain positive, even amongst adversity, amongst grief, heartache, pain, struggle. And if you find that you're not able to do that, again, just breathe and see as you sort of like allow those mental thoughts to filter through. See if even amongst these trying experiences, if you're able to reframe the situation. In a video, I think it's around about the 21-minute mark, and I'll put the link below, Pam mentions a book by Dr. Edith Eger called Choice. I haven't read that book, so I won't go into too much details, but it is encouraging to look at even a most horrific experience and see if we can reframe the situation. As Pam reminds us, we need to make or focus on joy. And she's not talking about airy-fairy joy, and she's not bypassing the hardship or other events, negative events in our lives. But joy is also, she reminds us, our spiritual responsibility as well. And it can actually, even if we can find the slightest, briefest moment of joy in our lives, like waking up and just feeling the sun on our face, or I have a bird bath out my kitchen window and watching the birds and the dynamics play in the water. Watching, going for a walk and seeing a dandelion popping up through the concrete can bring elements of joy. Just these little snippets help lift our vibration. I said, check out Pam's video below and she talks more about that. So getting back to this new moon, this conjunction between the Sun and Venus is significant because Venus is officially transforming from being a morning star to an evening star, meaning that from July onwards, we will start seeing it appear on the horizon after sunset. This Sun-Venus conjunction in Gemini occurs every 4 years. And the previous dates it's always around the same time too, it was in June. So June 2020, before that 16, before that 12, before that 2008. So do any of these dates mean anything to you? Do you have planets or points around 14 degrees of Gemini? Because this is when that conjunction actually happened. And this could actually be significant to you if you do have planets or points around 14 degrees of Gemini. This new moon is also going to be squaring Saturn, which is at 18 degrees 58 minutes of Pisces. It's moving rather slowly because it will be stationing direct on the 29th of June, and the air will be at 19 degrees of Pisces then. So Pisces connects us with our spiritual self, whereas Gemini connects us with our mind. And Saturn, which is sort of connected with science, it's a very logical sign, it's asking us to check in on the spiritual progress, which is Pisces, that we are making, especially in relation to our communication skills. Saturn could be bringing about delays and also potential challenges because asking us to sort of slow down, reassess our plans, maybe even prioritizing things in order to overcome any hurdles that we may not be consciously aware of. It's also asking us to check the fine print to ensure that we have all the details, especially as Gemini is very fast-paced. We've got 5 planets in Gemini speeding things up. So Saturn in Pisces is asking us to slow down, even stop, listen to our intentions, to our bodies, to pay more attention to how we feel about things, as opposed to always being in our head and our mind. There could also be a need to check in with what we actually need ourselves, as opposed to sacrificing us for the benefit of other people. The slowdown and desire to do even less in June, to sort of stop us taking on too much, especially this squaring of Neptune, which is 29 degrees 45 minutes of Pisces, because Neptune is asking us to give up something, maybe set our boundaries, to say no. Or we may even find that something we've taken on board, because Gemini is just everywhere, so taking little bits of information, saying, yes, 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 I can do all this. Things may fall off our calendar, be removed from our daily experience. This is because Neptune is wanting our mind in particular, to take a break. And coupled with Saturn, it's almost like a bit of a reality check to say there's only so much we can do. We've got caught up in the Gemini sort of social activities that all of a sudden it's realizing that there's only so much we can do. And the result of that is that June could feel like we are surrendering, that we have this need of slowing down, as opposed to going out there being more social, being more busy. So we could actually feel split, which is ironic. Well, it's not really ironic. but Gemini is also affected by the twins. So this is sort of reminding us the need to practice our decision making, especially when we're making strategies, taking on board only what we can handle. Also a reminder not to sacrifice too much of our own selves in order to please other people. We are just as worthy of our own energy. So in summary, there's a huge emphasis around communication at this new moon, looking at our thinking processes, how our thoughts affect our reality, what words we're using to communicate, the truth and value of our communication, where we've gotten these ideas from, our communication influences, etc. What is the truth value of these sources? And if we're finding that our thoughts are too scattered, if we're finding that we have taken on too board, that too much, that our calendars are too full, then it's time to release. It's time to undertake meditation or more mindfulness practices, breath work, getting back to our bodies, going for a walk to clear all those thoughts over our head, and allow more time for us. So I hope this has been of interest to you. Please check out the astrologers below, because I'm not an astrologer. I just follow a number of astrologers. Let me know what you think. Let me know how this new moon is panning out for you, because I do go back and read the comments. And if you haven't done already, if you could subscribe, that would be fantastic. Help support my channel. So take care, and I will see you again soon.